broken heart, truth gets loud. I know it can hurt to be patient. We turn away from real conversation. Let's talk about Heartside Out, heart, truth gets loud. I know it can hurt to be patient. We turn away from real conversation. Let on wine, say what's on your mind. I won't judge. Too many complaints, way too many fights. All in love, I know it can hard to be patient. We turn away from real conversation.
Hi, and welcome to From the Heartside Out, a show where we dive deep into the real conversations about relationships, intimacy, and mental health. I'm C the Sex Lady, your guide through these rich and sometimes challenging waters. Whether you're here to nurture your personal growth or seeking professional insight, this space is for you. Head to the show notes for any resources mentioned and to have more information about ways to connect with me or our guests. Have a question you'd like answered on the show or just want to say hi? Email me at podcast@cthesexlady.com. I'd love to hear from you. Let's get started. I'm very excited to introduce our guest for this episode. It is a very, very good friend of mine, my sister friend, Jenn. Welcome to From the Heartside Out.
Thank you. I'm very excited to be here.
Yes, we are going to have a conversation that we have all the time.
True.
And have been having for years. And this is less of an interview and more of really, I think I'm going to call it candid conversations, because I get to take my therapist hat off a little bit and just talk, because we have, well, a lot of things in common.
Very many.
And one of them is the unfortunate experience of having to navigate going non-contact with a parent and healing from all of the things that come along with having parents that I don't even know how to describe it.
Lots of things that I could say. My favorite one is from my girls on Jokes on You Pod.
Mm-hmm.
Shout out to Tally, who I think I've taken on this wisdom since she was like, I don't have daddy issues. My daddy got daughter issues.
Facts. My daddy got daughter issues.
And I don't have mommy issues. My mommy got daughter issues.
Correct.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're going to talk about. These parents that have daughter issues, because, and even just how much of my life I spent feeling like this was my problem, that my relationship with my daddy was my problem, and the impact of that was my problem. And just realizing, how could it be my fault that I didn't have a loving, caring, supportive father? What could I have done to cause that? Yeah, you know?
Right.
So,
like I didn't ring up and be like, you know what? It's time. Y'all go ahead, make it do what it do.
And bring me into the world. Yeah, and then
I don't remember making that call.
And then once I get here, mistreat me. Like, I don't think I ever requested that.
No, not quite.
Yes. Okay, so before we dive into all the things, I just want to share who we are to each other or how we know each other. So if my husband was here, he would say that I stole you from him.
Well, is it stealing if I invited you in?
Thank you.
And not for nothing, he's the one who made the introduction.
He actually did. So it's honestly his fault.
It is.
It's really his fault, because he took us to that restaurant together with that nasty food.
That macaroni and cheese.
That macaroni and cheese was disgusting.
Foolish.
And when we said it was disgusting, he said, oh yeah, I know.
I knew that. I just figured. Tell me more. What did you figure?
Because why would you let us put that on our plate if you knew it wasn't good?
I remember locking eyes with my sister. And since then,
we've been locked in ever since.
It's been ace.
It was immediately like, so he wrong. So he trifling.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And we recognize real.
Every time. And we've been locked. Yeah, that was 7 years ago.
Oh my gosh. No way.
That was 7 years ago.
It feels even longer.
It does.
I've known you my whole life.
It really feels like like we've been friends forever. Yeah, and it's easy for me to forget that I met you through someone else.
Same.
Because it's like, no, if we had met at any other point, we would have been friends anyway. Like he just God used him to bring us together.
So honestly, he welcome.
Thank you. Exactly. I was like, first of all, your friends were just waiting for another woman to come around.
I just need you to know we're gonna get back on track.
Yes, yeah.
That as ties, like best friends, we was like, let me let you know something, brother. When you bring a woman folk around here,
it better be for real.
It better be something with something.
Yeah.
And he brought Sierra, and I was like, wow, 10 out of 10.
He did good. I ain't gonna lie. He did good. Yeah. And it's always nice as a woman, because, I have guy friends, and you just never know how it's gonna go, meeting their partners and everything. And it was nice to be like, no, I like them. Like, we are friends. Like, this is gonna work.
Absolutely.
And it's been working ever since. So yes. And through our friendship that has really grown outside of him and outside of our connection to him, we have learned about how much we have in common. And, combined, we have a great set of parents.
Oh my gosh.
If we could put them together.
Boy, your mama and my dad.
Oh my gosh, what a team.
Unstoppable.
What a duo. But that was not our experience. That is not what had happened.
Right.
So we'll go back to the beginning and just give a little context or background about our relationship. So for me, again, my daddy has daughter issues. Your mama has daughter issues. How would you describe your relationship with your mom when you were a child?
Oh, this is so interesting, and something that I talk a lot about with my own therapist, because I found that now that I'm older, it is becoming increasingly more difficult to remember what the good times are like. And I'm like, dang. But I'll say what I do remember is growing up around a lot of love. And my mom, I remember it's like so much fun. Like a very fun and like had a sweet tooth like me. And
that explains so much.
Yes. And if you know me, you know I love to cook. And I get my love of cooking from my mom.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Absolutely. So like growing up, I would be in the kitchen and she would pull up a chair and let me stand in the sink and like help wash dishes with her. And I'm from South Carolina, so I have cleaned a chitlin or two or three or whatever, in the day, back in the day. So growing up, I had really good relationship with my mom, very loving. And I'll say the entire time I lived with my mom, I never had my own bedroom. I slept in the room with my mom. So we shared
so close in all the ways.
In all the ways. So yeah, I remember us having a really, really fun, really loving relationship when I was a kid, for sure.
Yeah, that's so interesting, because I feel like I'm having the opposite experience of sometimes I get random like flashbacks of like good moments with my dad.
Really?
And they are few and far in between.
I was gonna say, tell me more about that.
Yeah, yes. So one, I have no memory of this. My mom has told me this. So when I was maybe a year and a half, my dad had went to prison for like a year or two, something like that. And my mom said I got upset about something and told her like, I'm leaving. I want my daddy. Like, I'm going to get my daddy.
Wow.
And I was like, I said that? Me? And I was talking about him? And I was like, no, girl, I must have just been mad at you. Like, anybody must have been better than you. But I'm like, I have no memory of that. But one thing I do remember, I think I wanted to be a daddy's girl. And it just ended up not working out because, my parents got married when I was 7. So I was in their wedding.
Okay. Very black family.
Very black family. And I remember, I don't know what we were like play fussing about. And I said something to my mom of like, well, he was my daddy before he was your husband.
Ooh. Oh.
And I was like, don't forget, he was my daddy before he was your husband.
Wow.
Yeah. And it rallied. And I meant that. At the time, I meant that.
I mean, and was it a lie?
It was not a lie. It was true. And now I'm like, he should have never been neither one, but that's neither here nor there. At this point, it's interesting because my dad doesn't cook often. Like growing up, he didn't cook a lot, but he's a good cook. Like he can cook when he wants to. Okay. And we was talking about chicken wings last night. My daddy taught me how to fry chicken.
Yeah.
He taught me how to scramble eggs.
Okay.
He is the one that taught me to stop cooking on high all the time.
Let me tell you, and that is a lesson.
It is. He was like, listen, just because you wanted to cook faster, it don't work. Like, it's going to be burnt on the outside and that chicken raw on the inside. And
valuable life lesson.
Such valuable. And he also helped. He was, of my parents, he did more of the teaching me how to drive because my mama was too anxious. Her nerves couldn't take it.
That tracks. I feel like men usually have more patience.
Yeah, he was actually really good about that. It was just like, I would be nervous about like, oh, is people waiting for me to turn and stuff? And he'd be like, just all they gonna do is wait. He's like, you go when you ready. Don't let them rush you. Now, mind you, my daddy ain't got no license. Didn't have no license at the time. But we was only going around the neighborhood, you know.
That's all you needed.
But he was very good at that. And there would be moments where, you know, he was the one that would get up early and whoever up, you know, he'd cook you breakfast. It was like, yeah, you know, if you happen to, he would come in the room and be like, oh, you want some breakfast? And I'm like, and I do. And I want to get it before everybody else get it. So as I get older, I remember things like I had a therapist one time who asked me, is like, what are your good memories of your dad? Like, what did you learn like from your dad? And first I was like, girl, nothing. I took nothing from that man. But the more I thought about it, and I feel like my dad was also very good at treating like people who were different in some way. Like he was never like rude or disrespectful to them. Like he like had a lot of understanding for that. And that just always was interesting to me because that ain't how he treated his family. But you know,
it's interesting how that works.
Yeah.
The tolerance people can have for others except for their own level.
Yeah. So you said good times, good memories when you lived with your mom, because you didn't live with your mom your whole childhood.
No.
And when did things change?
Thank you. That's a really good question. Okay. So yeah, I grew up with so a little background. My parents, you know, 90s love story. Their song was Jodeci, Forever My Lady.
Of course.
But they realized before I was born that like they weren't going to work out. And I've always really respected that because I felt like they really established a dynamic where they were going to just be cool to be able to raise me.
Yeah.
And to me, I always like really respected that because I couldn't imagine like what it would be like to have to see my parents break up. So I just always knew them as like, these are my parents. They're not together, but like they both love me a lot.
Yeah.
And I remember being young and I can't remember the age, but there came a point where my mom started like going out and especially on like the weekends. And I have a lot of like distinct memories of like not wanting her to leave and like very dramatic, like kid, you know, on my mama's leg, like, oh, don't leave. And I think maybe that was a little bit of like, you know, a little bit of that little kid knowing that like, yeah, she was coming back, but while she was gone,
something is up.
Something is afoot here. And that's when I was like very young. But like throughout my childhood, it was interesting dynamics because my mom and my sister fought a lot.
And you and your sister are how far apart in age?
A lot.
A decade plus, right?
Yeah,
something like that.
A decade plus for sure.
Okay.
She's for sure in her 40s.
Okay.
And mid 40s probably by now. And I'm 32.
Okay.
So yeah. And my sister had my niece when I was 2. So we're only 2 years apart. And she wanted to be a young hot girl in the streets. And my mama was like, you got a baby, you got to raise.
Yeah.
And I remember growing up, they butted heads a lot. And so I remember being like, I just never want to have a relationship like that with my mom.
Yeah.
And so I was like kind of quiet and like very much like, yeah, the quiet kid. I'm just going to be quiet and stay to myself. But I've always been like, academic gifted. And so, which is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because, you get the school things. And it was a curse for me because I picked up context clues very well. So like as a gifted kid, you can pick up context clues. They're literally teaching you how to do that stuff in school. And so real life, I'm also picking up context clues. And there would just be certain things that I would notice, like certain times where my mom's behavior would change or certain people would come around and things would just be different. And eventually, I think I learned that my mom was like on drugs. But as a kid.
But not something anybody ever directly told you?
Oh, no one ever directly said that. Thank you for bringing that up. And we can have a long conversation about that. One of the things I'll give my family credit for this, and my mom especially, is they tried to hide it well. Like they developed like a whole language. Like they would use certain names and things. Like I'll never forget. They used to call weed B.L. Kelly.
What?
I don't know who or what a B.L. Kelly is. So if you're from South Carolina around the upstate in the 90s, if B.L. Kelly was a real person,
if that means
so
something,
sorry to you, man. I'm sorry to that man.
But also please tell me.
But also please tell me who is.
Yeah, what does that mean?
Maybe it means something, or also maybe it had literally just been my family.
Oh, okay.
But that's what they called weed. But which was different than what they called crack, which they called Kurt.
Now, what Kurt got to do with it?
I don't know. I don't know who Kurt was. But there was this language that was developed, I'll say, because not only was my mom using drugs, but both my brother and my sister also sold drugs. And so did other folks in my family. And so, 90s, Ronald Reagan and his BS.
Yeah.
It made it all the way.
And we talking early 90s, so it's really off of the end of the 80s.
Absolutely.
And the epidemic that was happening in destroying communities.
For sure.
Yeah.
So there was a point where I was like, yeah, this is different and things here don't feel safe. And for a lot of my life, my sort of refuge would be my dad would pick me up. And so I would stay with my mom during the week. And then Friday, I would go and stay with my dad and like stay with him all weekend and like spend time with him and his family. And so it was very interesting because as a kid, it felt like I have a good side of my family and a bad side. And my mom's side was the bad side. And my dad's side was the good side. And that's very interesting because nowadays it's really no sides.
Well, we could have another conversation about that too. That's a whole another conversation.
For sure.
Yeah. So things got, so this is still elementary school.
Yeah, still elementary school. And I'll tell you when it shifted for me and it changed. So I am a scoliosis doll.
Yes.
Hey girls. I really feel dating myself at this point, but back in the day,
because I don't think they do that no more.
No, they definitely don't. Back in the day, kids, like, what was it, like maybe once or twice a year?
Something like that. Yeah, probably like once a year.
Yeah,
like
there
that
would be like a dentist and like a doctor that would like come to the school and in your classroom. And one of the things they would do is little girls you would bend over and they would go down your spine to check for scoliosis.
Yeah.
I'm like, dang, are the kids just getting scoliosis nowadays? How do they check that?
Are they not, either not getting it anymore?
Right.
Or they just not checking?
Or maybe they just check at the doctor.
I get, yeah, that's true.
I guess. And even they would do like a little cavity exam sometimes and all that. So I had scoliosis and I had to have surgery. And it was a super involved, super deep process. I had to be out of school. I had to like do a blood transfusion, whole undertaking. And that was in middle school, 6th grade. And so I went to the doctor, had my surgery, and when I came home, it was actually more comfortable for me to sleep on a couch just by the way it was easier for me to get on and off of the couch. And so I started staying with my dad, and I would go back home to like visit my mom's house and things. But I'll be honest, it felt like because I wasn't in the home for like over a month, things had like drastically gotten worse.
Oh.
So
because there's nobody to hide this from.
Right. There's nobody to hide it from. And I say it's unfortunate because my sister and my niece was still living in the house, but she was younger.
Yes. Yeah.
And a big part of the hiding came from the fact of like my dad and his presence. And so, yeah, I think it had became like a real like dope house when I was in the hospital. And so I got home and I was like, I'm not going back there.
Yeah.
Especially because at this point I'm in middle school now.
Now you know.
So now
the context clues have clicked. You know, you done had dare and all of that.
Okay, just say no.
Yeah.
And crackhead is in the vernacular.
Yeah.
Hello.
Oh my God. Yeah.
We didn't have the beautiful terms that y'all have nowadays where there's an opioid crisis.
Yeah.
There was a crack epidemic and your mama's a crackhead.
Yeah. And all these children are crack babies. Oh my God. Yes.
So, so that is when it shifted and I started living with my dad. I'll say though, there was still never a conversation about the drug use that was happening or the fact that drugs were being sold in the home, any of that. That wasn't a conversation. It was just like, oh, well, you're more comfortable here. So, and the other part that my mom was like very excited to say was, you live with me for all this time. So it's okay. It's time for you to go live with your dad. As a 12 or 13-year-old girl. Imagine
like my time is up.
Yeah.
I did my time. It's his turn.
Yeah. So let's share.
When did it change for me?
For you, yeah.
So it's so interesting how distinct those memories can be because I think the first time I vividly remember thinking like, oh, I don't think I like my dad. Like I don't think I like that man. I was in the 5th grade. And it was like multiple things happened when I was in the 5th grade. One, I moved a lot when I was younger. And then right before I started 3rd grade, we moved into the house that we lived in the longest. We lived there for 8 years. And so if I had to pick a childhood home, it would be that. Okay. Because I lived there the longest. I went to 3 different schools in kindergarten alone because we kept moving to different parts of town. And so I was in different school districts. And so right before 3rd grade, we moved again. And so I changed schools, but that is the school I went through 3rd through 5th grade. So I started in 3rd grade. I am now in the 5th grade. Okay. My dad has to take me to school for whatever reason. My mom couldn't take me and my dad had to take me. And he took me to my old school that I had not attended since the 2nd grade. And I am in the 5th grade. I remember this. And then he looking at me like, why you ain't telling me this? I'm like, I didn't know where you was going. You're the adult. You driving me. Why you don't know what school I go to?
What is it about these parents and their ability to shift the responsibility to the children?
Why you didn't say something? Why you don't know what school your child goes? You drove to the whole other side. First of all, it don't even make sense because you drove to the whole other side of town when the school I go to is 5 minutes away from our neighborhood.
You don't want to check the local school first?
You didn't want to stop at the closer school. You drove to and also I'm in the 5th grade. This is my 3rd school year here. How you don't know what school I go to?
Not my teacher name.
No, the whole building. And why are you the emergency contact? You gonna go to the wrong place. So that happened in 5th grade.
Okay.
Also in 5th grade, back in the day of house phones.
Tell the children.
Yes. Back in the day, you used to call people homes, and they couldn't answer unless they was home, or if they had the calls forwarded to their cell phone, because my mama definitely used to do that sometimes, so it would ring to her cell phone while she was at work. But so we had got a new, maybe we switched like internet, because it was all bundled. Maybe we switched companies or something like that. We got like a new house phone. And now I will say, I was one of my friends who got a phone a lot earlier. I got a phone in the 3rd grade.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I think it was because my mama's anxiety, and like, you need to be able to call me. Now it definitely had minutes. The text messaging was not free. I don't think I got unlimited until maybe middle school, because I had
unlimited in middle.
Well, because whenever Suncom, oh my God, we are dating ourselves. Whenever Suncom changed to T-Mobile, gather around the fire. Yeah. Listen to Granny.
Stories of singular.
Yes. So my first phone was with Suncom. And whenever they changed to T-Mobile, was rolling out the unlimited plans or whatever. Because you couldn't tell me nothing, because most of my friends, like, they had Verizon and their minutes weren't free till 9, but ours was free at 7. Anywho, something with the house phone, and he was programming like the speed dials into the house phone, and he came in my room and said, "How you spell your name?" Now, if I'm in the 5th grade, I'm 10, 11 years old. And I done had that name just as many years. Now, my last name had changed.
Right, because they got married.
After they got married, they changed my last name to his. Mm-hmm.
So that part he should have.
Now, he should have that one down. Right. But my first name been the same since 94.
5 letters.
5. And 2 of them letters is the same.
Mostly vowels.
Yeah. 2 consonants. That's pretty easy if you ask me. And he was serious. Like, he wasn't joking.
And this is as a 5th grade.
I was in the 5th grade.
How does that feel?
It was just like, I think it made a lot of things click, because my dad is not a very, like, it's weird. Like, he's affectionate in some ways, and in some ways he's not. Like, he has a very, like, tough exterior, had a hard life, and wears that, but he's also, like, he could be really, like, huggy and really, like, loving when he wants to be. He ain't gonna say I love you a lot.
Okay.
But he gonna say it in a way that, Black men who don't say I love you say I love you, And he ain't gonna say he proud of me, but he gonna tell everybody that his daughter's a nerd, Mm-hmm. But I think I was becoming more of like, I need clear affection.
Yeah.
And I am that way to this very day. Tell me you love me. Hug me. Kiss me. Yeah. Regularly, daily, actually. And my mom is a very physically affectionate person. And so I think it was like, I was noticing more of his, like, emotional distance. And then stuff like that was just like, you don't know anything about me, like, as a person. And then my parents' marriage was going through a lot. And so by the time I was in 6th grade, I think that was the first time they, like, legally, now they didn't been breaking up and getting back together since 85, literally since they met in 85. When I was in 6th grade, that was the first time they, like, legally separated. We filing paperwork. He is moving out and was gone for several months at a time. And I think that's when I was getting the inkling that he was abusive, but I didn't have the language for that. I was like, he's mean to my mama. I don't like the way he talked to her. I don't like the way he talked to her or talk about her. Their arguments would be really intense. And both of my parents, my mama a lot less now, but at the time, both of them had pretty quick tempers. And I think I also didn't recognize it as abuse, because in my mind, that means one person is hitting another person. And I'm like, my parents fight. My mama fight back, And so I'm like, that's different. Like, nobody's just abusing my mama. Like, they be fighting, but, like, that's different. It ain't different,
guys.
Yeah,
fighting was common.
Yeah, unfortunately,
it was a pretty common.
Yeah. And it was super normal. Even the yelling and screaming, and then they don't talk to each other for 3-4 days. Or, I come home from school and I'm like, oh, my daddy ain't come here today. Oh, he ain't come here for a few days. Oh, he don't live here right now. People would ask me, do your daddy live with you? And I would say, sometimes. My parents were married at this point, but my answer was sometimes. Like, sometimes he do, sometimes he don't. And so, yeah, it was like that 5th, 6th grade. I was just like, I don't think I like him as a person. I don't know if I ever told you the story of how I called the police on my dad when I was in 6th grade.
You tell.
Because my mom had always said, don't try to get in between nothing with the two of us.
Yeah.
Go in your room, close your door. Don't worry about nothing between the two of us. Most of the time, it would just be verbal.
Yeah.
Then it would escalate. But there was one night that I was like, so at the house we lived in, my room was across the hall from their room, and it was a narrow hallway. It wasn't much distance at all. And I was already an anxious child by then. And so not sleeping the best. And they was arguing about something. And I just heard him saying, I'll burn this house down with all y'all in it. Wow. Just all of the ways that he could or would kill her and kill us. And I was just like, oh, he's going to do it. Like, this could be the end. And I got out of the bed, went to the other end of the house, grabbed the house phone. Because I think at the time I had to plug my phone up like in my parents' room or something like that at night. So grabbed the house phone, went to the other end of the house, and I called the police. And they were like, okay, stay on the phone, until we get there or whatever. And then they got there, and, my parents come to the door, and my mom was like, oh, no, like, everything's fine. And here I come. No, it ain't. Hi,
I'm the
Mr.
one that...
Yes, that was me.
I need to file a police report.
Yeah, it's actually not fine at all.
They're lying to you, sir.
Yeah. And I think I was just so upset. I'm just crying and everything. And so they're like, okay, so you're going to have to come with us.
This baby isn't crying
for no reason. Yeah. The police were at our house. There was a point where they were at our house so much that one of the officers, I ain't gonna say his name because I don't know if he was supposed to do this. He told my mama, this is my personal cell phone number, so that you don't have to call 911 every time. Because what we don't want and what we don't need is a record of a whole bunch of 911 calls. Just call me.
It's really FCAB, but every now and
again, Now, that same officer did give me a speeding ticket when I was in high school. He definitely did give me a speeding ticket. But then my mama told him, was like, you gave my baby a speeding ticket. He was like, I did not know that was her. He was like, yeah, he was like, she should have said something. He
should have been like, do you know who died?
Right. Remember when you used to come to my house?
You saved me, buddy.
Yes. And so, yeah, it was around that time that I was like, this man is mean. He doesn't seem very interested or invested in being a father. There was no emotional connection. And I was just like, I don't like him. Like, I don't like him as a person. I don't like what he put my mama through. And it just, I was like, I don't recognize my mama in this state and in this, doing these sorts of things. Like, this is not the mama that I know. And I blamed him for that. And was like, you hurt my mama and you changed her, and it's up forever. And it's been stuck.
It's giving Kill Bill.
Like, it's been stuck since 6th grade. You're living with your dad.
Yeah.
But still going to visit your mom.
Still like seeing my mom, and I would like, spend time with her and things. And I'll tell you, I can remember just like, and you said something earlier, when people are just like, do your daddy live with you?
Mm-hmm.
And I always got the question of, where your mama at? I'm from a small town, and my mom never drove. Like, my entire life, my mom never drove. My dad was the only one that drove. And so there are a lot of like experiences that girls have with their mom that I can relate to that. Because my mom wasn't driving. Even though like I can like very clearly and talk about it now, I did not talk about my mom and her addiction most of my life.
Yeah.
Because it felt shameful for me.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember in high school, it was a few pivotal things that really started to change the dynamic of our relationship. The house I grew up in as a kid, the house that my grandfather built, was burned down by one of my cousins because he thought we would get insurance money.
Mm-hmm.
Crack is whack, guys. Crack kills. Again. Okay. That's also the message of today's podcast. That did not happen because there was no insurance. So
oh no,
the house just got burned down for no reason. So
and now where we gonna live?
And so thank you. Come on, y'all. So that's the thing. Don't sell grandmama's house. And don't burn it down for fake insurance money.
At least,
you know,
or at least confirm if it's a policy. And also, then people can tell if you set the fire on purpose. Then people can tell.
They have investigators.
Yeah, they know that. So, but anywho,
back on track. So my mom is living somewhere else. And one of the things that I've also loved, but also struggled with my mom, is she has the biggest heart. Like one of those will
make a lot of sense.
Everything, just clothes off her back, and people will give her their butt kiss. And I'm like, Mom, yeah, you can't let people treat you that way. Yeah. And as the daughter, I am now. You're my nemesis because why would you treat my mama like that? Yeah. But you know, so she always used to take people in, and so throughout my life, especially as a kid living in the house with my mom, there was always somebody living in our house, whether it was a friend of my sister or one of my cousin's girlfriends or somebody was always living with us. But I loved it. It was cool. You know, it's just like extra love family around the house. But one of my cousins that was living with her at the time was like heavy selling drugs and got busted and did not say, hey, this is mine. And so everyone went to jail, including my mom. And so I, for one, was like, how dare you put her in this position? Yeah. She got kids. Yeah. And there was a time where they started like publishing like headshots of. Oh my gosh, yes. Because the paper was called Busted. It was the Busted paper. I can't remember the name of ours, but those things became a huge thing. Yes. And so it's like, not my mama in the like headshot things. And for drug charges, the thing I'm most afraid of, and that's the thing, growing up, it was a shame and it was a fear, and it was always the thing that I felt like someone was gonna be like the gotcha of like your mama. And thankfully, y'all, it never happened. Yeah. But I always was so terrified. And I think one of the ways was like I had to be on my stuff in school. I'm like, I'm smart. I'm gonna be good. I'm not gonna get in trouble. So you ain't gonna never know. You never that anything is awry at home. Yes. Oh, so relatable. So yeah. So I think that was like, I was just like, okay, this is a lot. But when she got busted and all that happened, my mom was just like, even though this did happen, I am gonna go to rehab. Okay. And I was like, oh my God. Wonderful. Like, yes. I had type 2 diabetes. I was one of the ones who had like premature diabetes for a long time, mostly hereditary, Black man. And so one of the things was my mom was just like, I'm going to go to rehab. And when I get back, like, you know, we'll walk together, get healthy. And I'm just like, what? Amazing. This is it. And that lady went to rehab and came back, and I remember calling and talking to her. And there became a point where I could recognize when my mom was drunk or under the influence of drugs because her voice changes. And I remember being on the phone, like checking in. I'm like, hey. And I was just like, no, this can't be it. Surely not. But you said you were going to go and stay clean. And she was like, girl, I was saying anything so I could get out of there. But you said like... You didn't just lie to them. You lied to me. Like, oh. Why would she do that?
Why would you do that?
And why would you like connect it to like my own health and like
Yeah, give me something to look forward to and be excited about.
The biggest thing is my mom got pregnant when I was in high school. I'm in high school, so my mom was in her 40s, and my mom didn't know she was pregnant.
Oh.
And it wasn't like, oh, no, my mom got sick and went to the hospital. And when she got there, they said, ma'am, you're having a baby.
Oh my gosh.
So my mom had a baby when I was in high school. And she told me, and I was just like, oh my God, I'm so excited. I have a little brother. I helped name him. And then I learned, I don't know how, but she signed over rights to him, and I never got to meet him.
Oh, so he never came home from the hospital with her?
Never came from home for the hospital with her.
Oh.
Ever. And I don't think I ever even, I may have gotten to see him at the hospital maybe once, like in the like NICU, we can like look at the babies, but I never got to hold any of that. So I have a little brother out there somewhere.
Yeah.
That I also assume, I think he has physical and mental issues because my mom was literally using drugs and alcohol the entire time.
And they probably didn't give her much choice because they do all kind of drug testing and everything.
Baby, I'm sure came out with like, infant fetal syndrome and all these other things. So it was that, and I remember I used to get my hair done all the time. Shout out to my daddy. And I used to get my hair done weekly, and I told my hairstylist because I was so excited, and she would then ask me about it every week. Oh. And I remember it got to a point to where I was just like, I don't know how to tell this lady to stop asking me about this because
I have nothing to tell you.
I don't know where he is. And that was so fucking disappointing and very sad. Yeah. And I think that really started the trajectory of me understanding like how deeply troubling my mom and her issues and her addiction was.
It's interesting how similar our like the timelines are of like that late. Let me tell you, talk to your children. Tell them things.
Yeah, they need to.
Tell them what's going on. Because I went to visit my cousin in New York for spring break my freshman year of high school. And when I came home, my daddy didn't live there no more. I was gone for a week. And I came home and he didn't live there no more. And I only learned through eavesdropping on my mama's phone conversations that she had found out he was having an affair and kicked him out. Nobody ever said, hey, we separating.
You gotta tell me all the details.
You don't gotta tell me all the details. But also I'm 14. Like I'm not dumb. I'm not 5. Yeah, no, there was never a conversation of like, oh, this is what's happening. This is what we're doing. And it was a lot of back and forth. It was a lot going on between like my freshman and my junior year of high school. A lot of it is a blur. One of the things that I do remember vividly, I was 16. I want to say, maybe 11th grade, 10th or 11th grade, one of those, when me and my dad got into a kerfuffle, we'll say. A scuffle, if you will.
Scuffle.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it
the Royal Rumble?
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it a fight per se.
No, because two people are usually in that.
Yeah, equals.
Equals, right.
Yeah, we can't be rivals in a father-child dynamic.
Exactly.
So that's a great point. Yeah, long story short, my sister, so my middle sister, not the youngest one, was like, if I'm 16, she was 2 at this time. Matter of fact, I hadn't even turned 2 yet because my birthday in January, hers in April. And it was shortly after my 16th birthday. Comes in the room to lay with me as she often did. And my parents get to fussing and arguing on the other side of the house. And she's scared. She starts crying. And if you know me, I take being a big sister very seriously. I don't play about being a big sister. I've been a big sister since I was 3.
a badge of honor.
It's all, listen, I throw that sister cape on so fast.
It's not on her, it's in her.
Literally, I was made for this. I was made to be a big sister. So I was like, now enough is enough. Now this is where I draw the line. You will not scare this baby. Now it's gone too far. And so I go to the other side and like I go in my parents' room and I was like, y'all need to chill. Like, you scaring the baby. My daddy like, who you talking to? And this, and that, and gets in my face. And I remember him like grabbing for my shirt. And I'm gonna be honest, a lot of it is a blur after that. I remember my mama trying to get, I've been bigger than my mama for a long time. I remember her trying to like get in between us. We both bigger than her.
She wasn't going.
She was not, and it's we rumbling, and I got a scar on my knee. His toe ended up broken somehow. Eventually the smoke clears, we separate, and I was like, oh, I bet you. Oh, that's his last day living in this house. I bet you that. I bet you he won't spend another night here because my mama ain't going for that. Yeah, you're out of here. She was going for that a little bit. Like, very upset about it. She definitely was very upset about it. And I do believe she let him know how she felt about it. But it also was like, oh, like y'all still finna be together?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. And so for about a year, I lived with my aunt because I was like, we can't be under the same roof. It's not going to go well. Yeah, it's not going to. Yeah, it's not going to end well. And that that was the point for me that I was like, oh, this is done. Like we no longer have a relationship. Like
16.
Yeah.
That's pretty.
This is it for me. And so when I graduated from high school, my parents were back together. My younger sister had been born. And for the most part, things were fine. But I already knew, like within me, like we don't have a relationship. Went to college and he came to my graduation and whatnot. Caught an attitude because I didn't want to spend the day doing what he wanted to do on my graduation day.
After your 4 years of hard work.
And that was the last milestone of mine that he attended, was my college graduation in 2016.
Okay.
I done graduated again since then.
Mama's got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 degrees.
Done bought a house, got married. Yeah. And that was because I said, you will never get to take another moment from me. And then my parents got divorced when I was in grad school. So I was like, once my mama got divorced, we got divorced. I am free.
Brand new day.
Freedom. Because I'm like, oh, I don't have to deal with you no more. Yeah. You are now my mama's ex-husband. That is who you are to me.
Yeah.
And it's been like that ever since, basically.
Okay. So 16. So that's pretty early for you to have like been able to make that decision. And I know we have language for it now. There's no contact. But what does that look like for you nowadays?
Exactly that. No contact. We don't have each other's phone numbers.
Like
zero contact. I only exchange words with him if we happen to be in the same place at the same time. And that is usually because it's something for my younger sisters. Because they are still minors. My mama still got to interact with him to an extent. So the last time I have had any conversation, seen this man in real life, was it my sister's graduation, her 5th grade graduation? Yeah, it's been over a year. Yeah. Because I'm like, what could I possibly have to say to you? What do we have to talk about?
Especially if we're not in contact.
Yeah.
And we haven't been in this long.
Yeah. And he did tell my mom he wanted to come to the wedding. And I thought about it. And I said, no, I can't run the risk of you trying to make this moment about you. Especially because we got married during COVID. We can only have a limited number of spots. I'm not giving one of those spots to you. To somebody I'm not even sure is here to support me versus to be nosy or to have an excuse to be in the same room as my mom or just to say that you were here or whatever the case might be. Yeah,
it's not worth all that.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it's so interesting because I've been in no contact with my mom since 22,
Mm.
2022. So college, we would talk, but like,
Mm-hmm.
there wasn't like any major beef, any major drama. I'm just like, that's my mom. She doesn't have a car. But my dad was a kind of dad that, like, if my dad was going to come visit, he would be like, okay, like, I'll go pick up your mom. Your mom is going to come too. And so, like, very thankful for him. 10 out of 10 on that.
Mm-hmm.
But it was really after college for me when things, I think, got progressively worse. So I moved to North Carolina, and that was a big deal because most of my family is back in South Carolina.
Yeah.
So I was here, on my own, and I started to notice that around Mother's Day, I would just get very irritable and in a really bad mood, and I didn't know why. I'm like, what is going on? And I was like, it's just like this time of year. And I noticed it for a couple of years. And so I finally like started seeing a therapist. It took us a while before we got into like, the good stuff.
Yeah.
But one of the things early on that we talked about was how Mother's Day could be triggering for me.
Yeah.
And why it would be. And I was like, yeah, I really miss my mom a lot. I wish she was around, and how difficult that really was. And I started to finally explore that. And I'll say I think the peak of it in 2019, my brother was murdered. And tragically, because growing up, my brother was in prison for a long time because he shot someone. The guy didn't die, but he went to jail. And he was locked up. And when he got out, I was in college. So we had a few conversations. But y'all, the correctional system really ruins people.
Yeah.
It destroys them.
Yeah.
So my brother wasn't my brother anymore. Not the same guy I grew up with.
Yeah.
And so that was all just like very difficult. So losing my brother was very challenging because I just, you always think, well, we have our whole life
We
to
got
get
time to
closer
get it
to
right.
connect.
Yeah.
But then that didn't happen. And my brother passed away in like November of like 2019. And January 8th of 2020, my father passed away. And I remember feeling like I felt like my soul leave my body. And I was just like, I can't do this. I will not be able to go on with life.
Yeah.
And I was just like, really, God? It's me and you. We are fighting.
Yeah, we got beef.
We have beef because not you taking the good parent, the strong one.
Why would you do this to me?
Why would you do that after you took my brother?
Yeah.
And we'll fast forward, and I'll say what the pinnacle and what made it the worst is, so after my dad passed away, both sides of my family really started like cutting connection with me. It was also rare before when folks would check in on me, but it just became like even less now. And
Which of all times?
all time.
Why then would you distance yourself?
More.
Yeah.
So that was hard. But in 2021, my husband and decided like that was the year we were going to get married. And so Sierra, who's part of my beautiful bridal party,
it was beautiful,
planned a beautiful, beautiful bridal shower for me at the house. And none of my family came from either side of the family. And I think that was a signal for me to be like, okay, this is different now. Your dad's gone. And it's not just your mom is the bad side and your dad's side is the good side. Like a lot of these people aren't around anymore. But I'll say my mom was at my wedding.
She was front row.
She came.
Looking cute.
Yes, in a dress that I bought her. Because I had to, of course.
Of course.
But I'll also say I am the only friend of mine that did not have their mother with them to get ready with them on the day of their wedding. And I don't know if we have any pictures of just us two alone. Sierra was there.
I was.
My aunt brought her there the day of the wedding. I asked them to come the night before. She couldn't be bothered. And I was like, hey, come back. The photographer is going to take some photos of us getting ready. And they never came back.
Yeah.
And then the last straw, there was a mistrial the first time for the guys who murdered my brother. And so it came back around. They're back in court. And I did not know that court had restarted.
Because you don't live there.
Because I don't live there. I'm not in South Carolina. But I also, during this time, my family didn't know, but I was unemployed. I had lost my job. And so I was at home looking for work, free.
Yeah.
And I got a text message from a friend of mine who said, hey, girl, I didn't, just wanted to like send you love or whatever, because I know that I saw your sister posted about your brother's trial. My sister and my mom and my aunt were all at the trial for the men who murdered my brother. And I called because I was like, wait, so nobody told me this was happening? And what bothered me the most was like, I asked my mom, I was just like, wait, so like, why didn't anyone tell me this? And she said, I forgot.
And trials don't be one day.
No, they're not. They're not one day. And I think the thing that was like most pressing for me was the fact of like, you're in a courtroom hearing the men who murdered your son testify about that. And nothing about that. You're there with your sister and your daughter, but none of that reminded you or triggered anything to you to say,
I have a whole nother
I
daughter.
have another daughter who might want to be here.
Yeah. Or at least have had the option to say, no, I don't want to go, or yes, I want to come and sit with my family
and yeah.
Yeah.
And that was the last straw for me. I was like, I can't do it anymore. Your behavior, it deeply impacts me negatively. And that's why I'm just like, I have so much admiration for you. Although I know I know it had to be hard, but to be 16 and to have the type of foresight to say like, I'm not going to allow you in these special moments for you to ruin them for me anymore. I wish I had developed that insight before so that I would not have put so many hopes and expectations on people that were never going to meet those expectations.
Well, I had that too. Like I did. I think up until that point, I wanted to believe that there was hope for me and my dad. I wanted to be a daddy's girl. Like, I thought that was like supposed to be the thing, but it just was like over and over again. I was like, oh, he has no intentions of being a good parent to me. Like he just doesn't plan on doing that.
Yeah.
And it was
not on his schedule.
It's not on his agenda at all. It's nowhere on his to-do list. And it eventually got to the point of like, you don't get to keep hurting my feelings. And it can take me a while to get there.
Same.
But once I'm there, I'm there. Yeah. And and I think that's why it takes me so long, because it ain't no coming back for me. Like,
I agree.
When you cut off, you cut off. It ain't no coming back. And so, and the thing is, I made that decision within myself at 16, but I couldn't fully live it out. Yeah. Like my mama still was making us buy Father's Day cards. I think she stopped when we accidentally got him the same card 2 years in a row.
Did he notice?
I don't know if he did or not. We didn't notice. She noticed. Yeah. And she was like, that is the same. And I said, well, it ain't that many cards that don't say you're the number one dad. Like, it's not that many cards that don't say that.
How can I get a generic Happy Father's Day?
Yeah, today is Father's Day.
Today is Father's Day.
And you are a father.
You are a father. Here's a card.
Here is a card. Like, they don't make those. They don't make cards that say, my mama made me buy you this card. Like,
they don't make cards that say, thank you for giving birth to me, maybe.
Maybe. And I don't even know if he was at the hospital when I was born. I'm not even sure about that. It's certainly a market of like, I want to acknowledge this day, but I'm not going to fill this card with lies.
Yeah.
You know?
Instead of greeting cards, it's just like fact cards.
Fact cards. Yes. You are a father, and today is Father's Day. Do with that what you will. Celebrate if you somehow think you deserve to.
Right. Celebrate the day you deserve.
Yes.
Speaking of Father's Day, you mentioned how you haven't spoken to your dad or seen him in over
at least a year plus. Yeah.
I haven't seen my mother since my wedding, September 4, 2021. But she did call me
on Father's Day.
Now imagine. I'll also add, I am not the only child of hers, not even the only daughter of hers whose father has passed away.
Yeah. Question. This is what I think about and I talk about in therapy sometimes. How do you think the dynamic with you and your mom impacted like your sense of self? Like how you think about yourself, feel about yourself, how you think or feel in general?
Wow. Okay. So I say it all the time, but if I could sue that lady, I would for all of my therapy bills.
Facts.
Because as I have been in therapy, locked in with my girl, shout out to her. I'm not going to tell y'all her name.
She know who she is.
She knows who she is.
Yeah.
The one and not the two. But it's really, really helped me realize how my relationship with my mother literally impacts every aspect of my life, every interaction, every relationship that I have. And for the longest time, I am big Sagittarius, big fall in love in 3 days.
Yes, big lover girl.
Big lover girl. We're getting married tomorrow, and meet me at the altar in your white dress.
Yes.
And so I have always been lover girl. I'm gonna love these men. Girl. And unrequited lover girl, because let me tell you, I will love you and you won't love me back, but I'm gonna keep loving you until
you love me back.
Until you love me back, or until you beat me down so much that I'm just like, okay, you really don't love me. And I guess I have to move on now. And that is not a great way to live.
No, not ideal, I would imagine.
And so, yeah, if I'm honestly, it deeply impacts the way I see everything. And I do EMDR therapy because it's super helpful for folks with my type of trauma. And one of my core cognition things that I often have to work through is feeling like I am inherently flawed. And I said this before, and I mean no disrespect, but I said this to you last night, and just that I feel like if I had to choose, I would have rather choose to have a daddy with daughter issues than to have a mama with daughter issues.
And tell the people why.
And I tell them why, because especially as a Black woman, because there's a layer there that may not be for other layers of cultures, but also for other cultures.
Yeah.
Y'all know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But especially in the Black community, the mother, the matriarch, is revered. She is on
it is
pedestal.
Jesus and your mama, then your mama.
And your mama.
And they won, they won A and 1B. They not 1 and 2.
Even 1A and 1B.
Yeah. One. Yeah.
Jesus mama.
Yeah.
Like
Jesus
you can
and mama.
honestly put them together. Mama Jesus.
Yeah.
Because that's how highly regarded people are. And yes, because there are the pillars of our community, Black women, that have done that.
Yeah.
And also, I don't have that experience.
Yeah.
I have the experience of having a mother who was not there. I don't have the experience of, one thing about it, my Black mama gonna make a way. My Black daddy did that.
Yeah.
And
raising
so,
a daughter
as a woman, it's very difficult. And so, and the other part is like, I hate it, but because of society, I had lots of friends who didn't have their dads around.
Right. Yeah.
But I knew like one classmate that was a white girl who had a mom that also struggled with addiction like mine did. Other than that, I'm sure that there was.
Right.
And now that I think about it, I have friends who had lots of issues with their mom. But it wasn't the same type of neglect. It wasn't the same type of addiction.
Yeah.
And I think it impacts you differently because it almost feels like, and I know it's not right, y'all, but it almost feels like societally, we understand it more when men walk out.
Yeah.
Because of the way not only like society is all of the messages is motherhood is instinctual.
Yes. And it's
there's
all
a motherhood
consuming.
womb and it's all consuming.
And it's the best sacrifice you can ever make, and moms are so glad to do it.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that is true for a lot of moms.
Right.
That is also not true for a lot of moms.
Right.
And so, yeah, so for me, and it's so funny because one of the things we relate a lot on is, and mine comes from my mother wound, is I have a tendency to blame myself for everything.
Yep.
Even if it's not me, even if it's someone else's responsibility, I can tell you why it's my fault. Because I'm flawed, because whose mom doesn't want them? And it sucks, but it feels like you can feel a little more with the dad because like he didn't give birth to you.
Right.
I literally came out of you.
That was your first home.
And so, yeah, and that's one of the things I talk about too, especially like, other folks who have a mother wound specifically, like there's always a part of you that wants your mom.
Yeah.
I think even like the worst moms ever, there's still a part that's just like, like if she were to somehow have a moment of lucidity and could have a real honest conversation and really apologize and have the conversations I want to have, I would be willing to re-engage with her. But I also have had to have some really tough and honest conversations in therapy about the fact of there may be, and there's likely going to be a day where she passes on and we never have that conversation. And I have to be okay with myself. And I have to know that is not on me.
Yeah. I relate to a lot of that in terms of like that dynamic impacting so much and impacting everything, because so one of the moments I skipped over and the me and my dad's relationship becoming what it is, when I was maybe 12 years old, something like that, he had gave me a bracelet for my birthday. It was a silver bracelet. And then at some point, him and my mom ended up getting into an argument, and he wanted me to take his side, or like wanted me to get in the middle of it basically and take his side and agree with him. And no, like I'm not finna do that. Like that's my mama, sir. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, that's my mama. And he took my bracelet. He took it back from me because I did not take his side. And I was like, oh, you will never get the chance to do that again. And so from 12, I was like, I don't need nothing from you. I don't want nothing from you.
I won't take nothing.
I won't take nothing from you because you will never get the chance to take something back from me that you have given me. And now I'm sitting here like, is that why I prefer gold over silver? But it also, I applied that to everyone. Like, I don't want nothing from you. I don't need nothing from you, because what you won't do is hang it over. And my dad is the type of person, if he buy you a bag of chips, he gonna tell everybody for the next 2 decades.
You know I bought a bag of chips.
If it wasn't for me, she'd starve to death. If it wasn't for me, if I hadn't spent that 50 cents,
he put 20 on 10.
Oh my gosh! If I hadn't bought her that bag of chips, she wouldn't be here today. If it wasn't for me,
he was on a deathbed.
I mean, wasting away,
just brought her back,
famished. Okay, and you know what I think it is? I'm like, because you do so little, it's easy for you to keep a record of everything you've done. My mama can't list out everything she bought me.
My father could never.
But that man, I'm sure he can.
Yeah.
And so, but I applied that to, no, I don't need no help. No, I don't need nothing. I'm good.
Woman, I don't need no man.
Don't need no man. Don't need no help. And when I met the wonderful man who was now my husband and genuinely did need help, I could not take it from him for it took years.
From your own husband.
I think I got better before we actually got married.
Okay.
But it was years into our relationship.
Like, I have a partner that I can rely on.
Yeah, because it was so foreign to me. Like, I've told this story, not on the podcast, but I've told this story before of like one summer my car broke down and I was like, the only way I'm going to be able to get the money to get it fixed is to get to work. But how I'm supposed to get to work with no car? And we were both in it was the summer, but we were both still in grad school. We ain't got no bunch of extra money. And he was like, well, just drive. I was like, I think it broke down on like a Tuesday or Wednesday. And I'm like, I don't get paid till Friday. So I can't do nothing about it until at least Friday. No. And that's days. And he was like, well, just drive my car until you can get it fixed on Friday. And I was like, no. What? Why would I do? And I'm like, well, how you going to get to work? And he said, well, I live closer to my job than you do. Like, I can get a ride with somebody. Like, just drive my car. And I was like, I said these words to him. I said, no, because I need to do whatever I would do if we weren't together.
Oh,
I said,
guys.
I said, if we weren't together, I would have to figure it out by myself. And so that's what I need to do.
Studio audience. Then why are we together?
And he said, but we are. And he said, and I don't mean no harm, but that don't make no sense.
It's like, respect me when I say this.
Like, and what Tally Mel say? And I'm gonna touch your hand when I say this. That don't make no sense. Dumb. And I remember telling that story to my therapist, and she was like, "Agreed," because that don't make no sense. Like, do you want a partner or not? And I was like, I just feel like I shouldn't have to rely on nobody. And because men don't be dependable like that. Just because you get married don't mean they're going to be dependable. Don't mean you're going to be able to count on them. My mama was a married single parent and she did everything by herself. And she had a husband and she still raised us by herself. And she did this and she was paying the bills and she was cooking and cleaning. She was doing everything by herself. And I'm going to be doing that anyway. So I need to be practicing for that now. And she was like, so just stay single then, girl. What you want to be with that man for?
Clock that tea.
And I said,
she clocked that tea quick.
I'm like, okay, but when you put it like that, it do sound like it don't make no sense, but it do make sense.
To me.
And she said, so in that moment, were you responding to him or were you responding to your father? And I'm like, man, what you don't understand is I'll leave this office right now and never come back.
It's like, oh, so you just called me bald head and spit in my face?
You said my mama ugly? What? Like,
you told my grandmama to go to hell?
Like, what? You said you'll jump me after school?
You got 3 girls outside?
Talk about y'all just want to talk?
Y'all just want to talk?
I was like, I will never come back here, actually. But also, put me down for next week.
But also, you take tips?
Yeah, so that was 2:00, we said, because, wow. And the number of times I have had to say that to myself, of like, girl, this ain't your daddy. Oh. This ain't your daddy. You don't have that type of husband. This ain't that type of relationship. This ain't that. And I need to treat him accordingly and act accordingly. And so now I am a proud member of the Spoiled Wives Club. Proud member. And I'm like, sweetie, you introduced me to this. And you're gonna have to maintain it. Yeah, I'm here now.
Princess treatment only.
Only. I can't accept nothing else.
I've never seen a suitcase in an airport.
Because why would I be doing that?
A door will not be open. As a member of the Daddy's Girls Club, Ty is a good one. Because a lot of men folk don't understand what it means to be a member.
Yeah.
And especially if you had the old school daddy like I did.
Yeah.
Very much a meet me at the gas station. You know, it was some things as a daddy's girl. It just hit different.
Yeah. You know? What is that like?
I'll say it's challenging, and it was challenging in dating because I'm like, none of you will ever.
How could you ever compete?
So why would you compete where you can't compare?
Let me tell you something. See, every now and then trauma will give you something like useful and helpful. And what I had to learn because of my relationship with my dad is that, people say all the time, that they want to look for a man like their daddy and he sets the standard and this and that. And I was like, well, he has certainly clarified what I don't want and what I'm not looking for. But what it did teach me is that there is a difference between who a man is as a father versus as a partner.
Oh, for sure.
And I did learn that, like, I wanted my example to be more based on how a man treats his partner than how he treats his children. Because there's some stuff that you're going to do because that's your child and that's your baby.
Yeah.
And that's going to be different. Like, I'm 30, grown, married, pay all my own bills, own a house, all of that. And if I call my mama right now because I need something, she's going to do her absolute best to get it to me. Because I'm her child, no matter how old I am.
Right.
And there's an extent of that I do expect from my husband. But at the same time, I'm like, I also can't expect you to parent me.
Right.
And to be the dad that I did not have. That's not your role. That's not your responsibility. And I'm like, you don't get to pick and choose.
No.
Like, you can't just be, oh, I want you to love me like my daddy did, but then not, like, try to enforce rules on me like my daddy. Like, you can't, I'm like, you want him to be your daddy, then
he gotta be dad
all the time. Yeah. I'm glad that I chose the partner that I chose because I can feel confident that he will be a good dad.
Yeah.
And that our children will have a good example of, like, him as a partner. Like, don't let the standard be how he treats you because you his child. Your partner is not going to be your parent. Yeah. But look to how he treats me. And let that be your example.
That's really good. That's really good and very, very true because agree, when I break it down and when I think about it, the thing that I do appreciate and love from my dad that I want exhibited by my partner is thoughtfulness and intentionality.
Yeah.
Like as a father, it was very much like, okay, what can I do to make sure that she is best supported? How can we think through this together? And, like just like really knowing someone well and also like if my dad said I'm gonna do it, he was gonna do it.
Oh,
that follow through.
That makes so much sense. Knowing you
is so important, especially having a mother wound.
Yeah.
Because a lot of that relates to the fact of like a lot of empty promises, a lot of, well, I'll do this or I'm going to do, or I'm not going to do that.
The phone call from rehab.
And so that part of it, I think is super helpful in a partner. It took me a while until I got older and I was like, oh, hey, therapy.
I honestly, this is the first time I'm thinking about like the relationship with you and your mom and how that impacts your relationships with other women.
Yeah.
I don't know why. I just literally never thought about that. Never, which is dumb because I think about how my relationship with my dad impacts my relationship with men all the time. But like, yeah, I never, and maybe it's because I'm like, you were such a girl's girl that I'm like,
it took a while to get there. Though.
Yeah, okay. But I can see that. That makes sense though.
Yeah, it definitely took a while to get there. And also, I think I just had a lot of high standards for women because you have to be here. You have to meet me here.
Yeah.
Because my mama's not. And also, I feel like I've had and I've developed really good relationships because my relationship with my family has been so strong that I definitely have always seeked out strong relationships with other women.
Yeah.
And so I am, especially nowadays, like, yes, not just nowadays, but very much a girl's girl. Like, what can I do?
Yeah.
And I think it's because, I had a very tough exterior because I'm just like, I can't let another woman treat me like that.
It'll never happen again.
Do it. I'm grateful to be older now and to have that perspective and to know how my relationship with my mother has the potential to impact. I'll say potential to.
That's good.
Because I'm trying to do the work, not trying. I am doing
You
the
are,
work
yeah.
of learning and pausing and dealing with these things in the moment. And I am not allowing myself to just let life happen anymore.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, okay, now that you know that this is a thing, what are the ways that you can really set up systems to put in place so that you don't have to do this hard work from the beginning every single time.
Yeah.
You got some building blocks.
Yeah.
So keep building on that. Sometimes, some of the block might chip away, but the whole thing isn't gone.
You don't got to start from
You
scratch.
don't have to start from scratch.
Yeah. That's so good. And the potential, how it has the potential to impact things, because I don't have to react the way that I did. And I can recognize, you know what? I know what this is triggering in me.
Yep.
And I know how to respond to that differently now. That is so good. And I actually was going to ask about the work and the healing and the moving forward. And so I know for both of us, that process has involved being no contact to limit those opportunities of having your peace disrupted. And it's not ideal. Nobody wants to get to that place with their parent of, it is healthier for me to not have a relationship with you, because having a relationship with you
is worse.
Is poisonous to my life. That is a terrible, awful place to be in, and a terrible, awful conclusion. If you have someone in your life who is no contact with a parent or considering being no contact with a parent, please be kind to them, because it is not a decision that people arrive. And nobody wants to hear, but that's still your mama, that's still your daddy. You only get one. You gonna miss them when they gone, and it's gonna be too late. Nobody wants to hear that. Because what verse 2 say? Stop bothering and mistreating them children. That's a different translation, but that's basically what it says. Lead them children alone and stop provoking them to want to cut you off. And it's like, okay, yeah, you only get one mama, you only get one daddy. Do they know that? Do they know that? Are they acting accordingly?
Do they know they only get one Jennifer?
Hello? Because I'm not so replaceable myself.
Hey, baby. I'm not.
How is the burden on me? And it's my responsibility. And there is a power dynamic here.
Yeah.
And you as the parent have the power.
All of it.
You have set the tone for our relationship from literally day one. So when I finally say, you know what? I'm going to believe you when you say that you don't intend to do right by me. I'm going to believe you, and I'm going to stop asking you to do different. And I'm going to respect your choice to be an absent parent or a neglectful parent or whatever the case may be. And I'm just simply going to stop expecting different from you so that I can protect my peace.
It is not a easy or a light decision to come to.
No.
To have to say, I cannot continue, like we said, I can't have a relationship with you anymore.
No.
And that can look very differently for a lot of different people.
Right, right.
So for me, what it looks like is I don't call her.
Mm-hmm.
She does have my number, like I said, which is how she called me on Father's Day.
Mm-hmm.
And I typically do a better job of also just monitoring things. One of the things my therapist said to me was just like, girl, why don't you just change your number? And I was like, how dare you?
Why would you suggest that to me?
Because I've only had one number
my
whole life.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's hard.
And so I'm like, girl, I need this number.
You can keep the area code, though. When you change, they let you pick your area code sometimes.
That's the problem.
Oh, you don't want that.
Now.
Because you're more likely to recognize that area code and answer the phone.
I have also, part of my going no contact, which, sorry if you from back home where I'm from, but if I don't have your number saved and I see 864, I'm not going to answer it.
Yeah.
Because you could be.
But also, if you've had the same number, if you don't got that number saved, that's for a reason.
That's real.
Cause you like that's for a reason. Yeah, I done had this number forever. So why I ain't got your number no more? And you don't even be changing phones like that.
Okay. I decide what no contact looks like for me.
That's so true. Yeah.
And for me, it looks like I am not actively reaching out to you all.
Mm-hmm.
I am not sending any pigeon messages. I'm not reaching out.
Mm-hmm.
And if I see an 864 number that is not saved, I'm likely not answering.
Mm-hmm.
And that's for my mom, my sister, honestly, all of the folks in my mom's family.
Mm-hmm.
And at this point, some of my dad's side of the family as well.
It's gonna be on that list too.
It's gonna be on that list for sure.
Yeah.
And it's challenging. It is a disservice to Sierra, Ty, and all the other people that love me to continue to allow these people to be around me and to treat me anything other than what I deserve.
That's facts.
Yeah, I give someone access to me that is not going to treat me with the utmost love and respect that these other people are. And that's not fair because yeah, you all are my family. Y'all are the ones that are there when the going gets tough.
Mm-hmm.
And so when these people hurt my feelings, y'all are the ones that are gonna have to repair me. And it comes to a certain point where it's not fair to you all to have to keep doing that work because I can't hold up boundaries and not allow myself to be hurt by these people.
That's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, when you know that you're who you're gonna turn to, and I've actually had to set some of those boundaries with my mom of like, there was a time where my parents were considering getting back together very briefly after they got divorced, and I told my mom, I said, I'm letting you know right now, if y'all get back together, I will not be there. Mm-hmm. I've also told her, if he is sleeping in this home, I will not be. I can't tell you who to let in your house. I can't tell you who to marry. I can only tell you how I will respond to those things. And she's like, you would come because I'm your mama. And I said, no. I really need you to hear me very, very clearly because I don't want you saying I switched up, I changed up, shocked and surprised you. I can't support it. I won't.
Yeah, I love you. I will always support
you. Always.
But that
can't and won't. When I come home to see you and my siblings, I want to see you and my siblings. I don't want to share space with him like that. We get along best when we are not around each other. That's the best way for me to be respectful and for it not to be a big thing. And I've had to even accept that, like, it's okay for me to have those limits and those boundaries. Like, it's okay for me to say, like, yeah, you don't get to keep playing in my face. You don't get to keep disrespecting me and disappointing me and mistreating me. Let me ask you this. Has your journey, your work, your healing, do you feel as if, through all of that, you have forgiven your mom? Or is that a goal of yours? Is that something you even desire or aspire to?
I love that question. Mm-hmm. I love it. Absolutely not. I don't forgive her, girl. No. And I'll say, like, I know folks have lots on forgiveness. Mm-hmm. It's for you. Yeah, it is for me. Mm-hmm. And I don't forgive her.
Which means I don't have to have it. If it's for me, I can decline. I can decline something for me.
Yes or no.
No. Thanks.
Checks the box, no.
Yeah.
But I also think she hasn't done anything for me to forgive her yet. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I hear how, it can be for me and all of that. But I also I don't think I owe forgiveness to someone who hasn't apologized.
Fair.
To say you forgive someone means that you're ready to allow them to make amends.
See, that's where I differ.
Really?
Yeah, I think that forgiveness and like reconciliation are separate processes, and they can happen together. Like, I can forgive you and still say I want no relationship with you, and I could do both, and I could do neither. Mm-hmm. I had a similar conversation with my therapist of like, you may not ever get the apology, the recognition from your dad, and are you going to let your healing be held up by that forever.
And same. That's where I'm at with it.
That's where
I'm just like, I haven't forgiven her, and that's okay.
Yeah. It really was a conversation with Ty that he was like, you don't have to forgive your dad. And I was like, come again? What do you mean? Of course I do. How am I supposed to heal and move on and have closure with my life? And it's like, you move on and heal and have closure with your life.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that was honestly very freeing for me because I'm like, no, I don't forgive you for putting your hands on my mama. I don't forgive you for mistreating my mama. I don't forgive you for being emotionally absent and unavailable and disinterested and essentially
not knowing how to
spell my name.
Or for taking me to the wrong.
I don't
or for lying about being in rehab and wanting to stay clean and help me with my health journey.
I don't forgive you. I don't. I truly don't. Our values are too different. I can't respect somebody who don't take care of their family and value their family. Like I can't. And if I can't respect you, I can't have no type of relationship with you. I have gotten to the place where I'm like, forgiveness doesn't have to be a part of my journey. And I'm okay. Not to say that it won't ever come. If it does, fine.
If it does, beautiful. But if it doesn't, I'm okay with it.
Yeah, I'm not actively pursuing it like I once was. That was like a goal of mine in therapy. Like I want to get to the point where I've forgiven my dad. And it's also hard to forgive someone who continues to do the things because the best apology is changed behavior.
I had to have some really tough conversations after losing my father. You know, like after losing my supportive parent, the one who's always had my back, who's always looked out for me, who's always taken care of me, I had to ask myself, are you going to be okay if you never get an apology from your mom? If you never get to have the conversation with her, like, are you going to be okay with that? And I think also because of her drug use and addiction, she has so many health issues. And so it used to be every other week, it was a state of panic and I would be so worried.
Yeah.
And even that came to a point to where I had to be like, I can't be stressed out over someone and their health issues when they continue to smoke, they continue to drink, they continue to do the things that like is going to actively make them worse.
Yeah. And you're not stressed about it. And that's the thing. It's like, I am, people be like, okay, well, what if your dad passed and like y'all never made amends? Like if you never made it right. If he
never made it right with me.
If he is okay knowing that he could leave this earth, either of us could leave this life at any moment and that he did not do his best to be the best father to me. If he ain't losing no sleep over that and he can live with himself, I'm not finna lose no sleep over it either. Like if he can rest easy knowing I am not a good dad. Yeah, I'm not a good dad. And then he just get up and make his breakfast.
And go on by his day.
Why shouldn't I?
Because I've said to myself, like I said, like the girls ate that one. I'm not the one with the mommy issues.
These are not my problems.
It's not for nothing. My friend's mama, my husband's mama, any of my ex's mama, mamas love me.
Yeah, that's real. You don't got no beef with mamas?
I have no beef with mamas.
That's facts. That's
facts. No beef with mamas. And so I was just like, so girl, it's just your mama. Same thing with family. I got no beef with families.
Yeah.
Your family invite me places. My family invite me places, except for my own relatives. So I say to myself,
it can't be like, why would this be my problem?
How could it be me?
I am not the one in control of this dynamic. I am not the one who made the choices and the actions that led to my children not wanting to have a relationship with me.
That's the one.
So how am I the one with the issue? So you got daughter issues. I don't have daddy issues.
They have daughter issues. And I would be very interested in having this conversation with a man.
I've thought about that, like a part 2.
I would like to know, especially same perspective.
Yeah.
Son or mama that has son issues.
Yeah.
And dad that has son issues.
I might work on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because I wonder
I'm
if the dynamic
curious.
is any
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Mm-hmm. Because I mean,
because you don't ever it's daddy issues is like that is a woman's problem. It's not that girl got daddy issues.
Yeah.
Like we don't ever talk about how men and their relationships. Yeah. And they still blame that it's because he grew up with a single mama that he act like that.
The other thing too,
it's like
you blame. It doesn't matter. The mama is gonna get blamed.
Yeah,
any serial killer out there just is like
she raised a killer, and it's like she just her,
nothing else,
just her by herself. Okay. This was a great conversation. Again, we have this conversation all the time. This is just like y'all get to be a fly on the wall.
This is really good. I just really appreciate us being able to have this with more folks.
Mm-hmm.
I think, just coming from the perspective, I'll say it was life-changing for me when I did finally develop the language and learn what a mother wound was, and got to learn that it was not just me. Because I think that's part of the struggle, is that you do feel like, oh no, it's just me. And I don't know why my mama don't love me, but she just don't love me. And so there's a language for it. And it's not just you. And because there is a language, it means that there's
it's a thing. Yeah.
And I think for me, that was life-changing years ago. For me to finally learn that,
to be able to put a name to it.
I think helped. And to be able to finally openly express it took away so much of the shame.
Yeah.
The last thing I'll say is I was on this work DI thing that was actually really, really good. And one of the things they said was, someone shared, each time you share your story, you cut the power of it in half. And so for so long, I never talked about the addiction issues that my mom had until I learned that that's not my shame.
Yeah.
I didn't have kids that I don't take care of.
Right.
I have no children.
Why am I walking around embarrassed? I've done nothing wrong.
I've never done crack.
Yeah. What do I have to be embarrassed about? I ain't never abused nobody, mistreated nobody's child, certainly not my own. What do I have to be embarrassed or ashamed about?
And that's been it. And so, that's what I would leave, is if you are still holding on to the shame of it, it's not your shame.
Yeah.
That's not yours to hold on to keep.
Put that down.
Put it down. The story is yours.
Right.
Share that.
Right.
How that has impacted you. But the shame is not yours.
Yeah.
Give that to who it belongs to.
Yeah. One of the ways I heard it is, shame dies when secrets are told in safe spaces. And I have held that in my heart for many a times where I'm just like, why did I just tell them people all my business? What, girl? Because I be telling my business.
I would tell them.
Why? I'm like, why am I telling these people all my business? And because it's and it makes sense, like you said, it reduces the shame, it reduces the weight of it every time. I get a little more free, and then maybe somebody else does too. I'm glad we got to share.
Thank you for inviting me to my first
podcast,
sister.
It's your first one. Oh, well, yeah, you got to come back for something else then. Yeah. And we'll talk about something else. We'll talk about something else.
People will get it.
Thank you all so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed. Thank you, Jen, as always, for just being who you are and for trusting me with your story.
Listen, you invited me and I said, I want to go record a podcast. Do I know what we're talking about?
Absolutely. Nope. And we had a great time. We've been talking for 2 hours.
I believe it.
Wow.
I can't wait to see when you edit this down to 38 minutes.
Who?
Okay.
Who? It's gonna be like an episode of The Read. I'm not cutting that much out. I just can't do it. Good. And it was good stuff.
I agree.
It was good stuff. So yes. Thank y'all for listening. You will get to hear from Jen again. But for now, goodbye.
Bye.
See you later.
Stay cool.
Yes. Thank you for tuning in to From the Heartside Out, hosted by See the Sex Lady, produced by Christine Johnson of Pure Pod Vibes, and music by Rico the Artist. If you enjoyed this episode or learned something new, make sure to subscribe, rate, and review on your platform of choice. And don't forget to share with a friend so they can learn something too. I'd love to hear your thoughts about this episode. Please send any comments or questions to podcast@seethesexlady.com. That's podcast@ceethesexlady.com. Until next time, keep loving, living, and leading from the heart side out.